Brian, we're alive.
What's up, man?
How does it feel to be in SoundCloud rapper paradise? That's what I feel like this room is.
It does feel a little that way. Feels good though. Feels good.
Thank you so much for the listeners. We're here recording at the Akron Library.
Yeah.
In their tech center studio that I did not know exists until Brian turned me on to it. So thank you so much.
Yeah.
This is great, man.
It is. It really is. They have a lot of great resources down here. I unfortunately or fortunately or whatever, I don't live up in northeastern Ohio anymore. But when I was here, I would drive here sometimes to get stuff done.
You're kidding me.
No, I'm dead serious.
And when you mean drive, you mean from the motherland. And when I mean from the motherland, I mean from Youngstown.
Yeah, Warren, Youngstown, yeah, same thing basically. Yeah. And it would be a 45-minute drive for me at least to get here. But some of the resources that they have here, you just can't get.
Yeah, you know? Man. Thank you so much. I live in Cuyahoga Falls, which is like a suburb. Yeah. It's kind of like the Boardman of Akron.
Yeah. I'm not completely familiar. Go ahead with your thoughts.
I was just going to say that my apartment complex where I'm at, they're doing construction.
Oh.
So like it was like you would hear like these backup beeping noises in the middle of the podcast, and
yeah,
it's just nice to have a place now where we'll only be interrupted by upcoming rappers. I hope someone comes through, and I love the public. I love engaging with them.
Yeah.
But hopefully they come in and they interrupt me and not you, because I want to hear about when was the last time we talked? I had you on the podcast before.
Man, it's been so long ago.
Back in the day.
Yeah.
So what's gone on since, I think it was like the fall of 2017.
Jesus. A lot. I got married.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So did I.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Yes.
What's going on? We both got married
in
between, the fall of 2017 and now.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I've gotten married. I have a son on the way.
What?
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. That, it's due in August, late August. So.
Wow. That's beautiful, man.
It is.
And you guys are in Columbus now?
Yeah. Yeah. We're in Columbus. I reluctantly, I guess I won't say reluctantly moved to Columbus, but I at first wasn't sure because, everybody leaves Northeast Ohio. Not everybody, but you know what I mean? People leave Northeast Ohio with the thought or, vision of, I hate this place. I'm going to, or whatever.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to be that guy, but it's been a good, decision for me. It's been a great move. The city is, fantastic. It's growing exponentially. I don't know if you saw, I think it was like realtor.com or something like that. They had an article that came out a couple months ago that, officially, apparently is official that Columbus is the hottest real estate market in the country.
Wow.
And that's legit. I wholeheartedly believe it. I've seen it with my own eyes. It's, I thought, I'm like, man, maybe I should get a real estate license or something on the side. It is that crazy there. I've personally seen people put their house up and has sold within 24 hours cash.
What? That's crazy.
Yeah, on like 2 or 3 different occasions.
What do you think the reasoning is?
There's a lot of opportunity and companies that are coming to Columbus. There's just the diversity of businesses and organizations and people, honestly, that are there is kind of unparalleled in not just Ohio, but it's in the Midwest, if you will. I think it's the second largest city, close, second to Chicago.
Yeah.
So it's pretty, and I know a lot of people in Detroit would have something to say about that too, but with respect to industry as well, it's an amazing culture, if you will, down there kind of right now. So
I feel like there's a distinct difference. I love Columbus and I love Northeast Ohio, but I feel like there's a difference in the culture between the two.
Yeah.
you would know better than me. What's some of the differences that you see?
Oh man. It's so, I will preface it by saying it's so different that when I come back to Northeast Ohio, it feels weird. It feels weird because it's so different and I'm so used to the culture there now that I will also say my brother, he lives out in LA, and when he comes here, he always like throws a little bit of shade or jokes about how like weird it is when he comes back here too. And when I say weird, it's not in a bad way, you know, it's just different. But I will say the people there definitely have I shouldn't say haven't, but in large, wow, I had to think about this question. In large part, I think a lot of the people that are in Columbus have not had to deal with a lot of the things that we've had to deal with in Northeast Ohio with the, you know, manufacturing industry leaving and all of those things. They don't really have an incredibly, you know, overbearing manufacturing industry in their area. Yes, they made things and, you know, have that footprint, but that wasn't, you know, what they did. They did a lot of things. So for them, it's, you know, I don't want to say a blip on their radar, but it was just one of many things that they kind of took in stride. And with that, they have this energy that, you know, we're here and we're pretty much going to make whatever happen. Yeah. You know, there's a lot of confidence with respect to, you know, this is a great city and we're about to, you know, continue to grow and put our name, you know, on the map.
That's awesome. I feel like with Northeast Ohio, it's such a weird vibe here. It's kind of like we're like rustic urban country people.
That's a good way to describe it, I would say. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good way to describe it. I mean, even some of the stuff that I do, like, you know, in Columbus, I'm like, I feel a little country, just a little bit. But, you know, not that it's, again, I feel like I'm trying to defend my whole whatever. It's not country, but
it's so weird. It's like we're not like Iowa corn or like Nebraskan corn huskers or whatever.
Right.
But we're also not like East Coasters.
Well, I think, again, it goes back to the whole urban, rural. One of the things in my mind that I think that separates, you know, a rural America versus, you know, an urban America is that in rural America, there's only a handful of things that you do for a living there, right? You're, you know, a farmer. You do something that has something to do with the agriculture industry, you know, or you're like a builder, or something like that. Here in Northeast Ohio, for decades, it was kind of the same thing. You built things, or you know, had something to do with the automotive industry, or had something to do with somebody that made something, basically, or you were in healthcare, basically, is kind of how it was. So not saying that there weren't other industries, but again, by and large, you know, the I hate using that word. I feel like I've used it a ton of times, but overbearing theme was that this is what we do. Yeah. And when you get that, you know, in a region, it kind of gives people like a singular frame of view, if you will.
You're going to kill me. I don't think this is picking up. Or actually, no, I think it is. Because usually like this light is on.
Oh, yeah,
but it's not. I think it's coming from that mic. Do you think that my voice is coming from that mic?
Tap your mic real quick. It's there.
You think?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no.
Sorry about that in podcast land.
No, it's all.
I'm so paranoid.
New equipment and it's new environment, and you know, we're trying to figure it out as we go along.
So I literally was thinking that when I was trying to put this together, because this is the first time I've used it, and I'm figuring out, and I'm meeting with you, who's an entrepreneur, and I feel like that's what entrepreneurship is. Like it's like you're trying to present like an idea or a solution that you yourself, you're not 100% sure. And you can never be.
You're never sure.
And that's so scary.
It's a microcosm of life, I think entrepreneurship is, because everybody's out here just screwing stuff up with no idea what they're doing. They tell you that they know what they're doing, but they have no idea, most people. And that's kind of what we do in the business world, is just, roll the dice, see how it works out. And if it doesn't, then retool and make something else work. So. Yeah.
I mean, and what's the alternative? The alternative is sitting around and waiting for someone else to make it work, which, I mean, I kind of get on the surface, because we're kind of like living on top of the skeletons of those that came before us.
Right.
The person that developed the combustion engine, the person that developed electricity, the person that developed chairs, we didn't do any of that.
Right.
So it's like, because we're in such a magical time right now, it's hard. It's so hard, because deep within us all, we have this drive to innovate and create. Mm-hmm. Like that's human nature.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's kind of like we have all this stuff handed to us. So like balancing that's where the tension is, I feel.
Yeah. That's where I guess the difficulty and trying to understand where we as individuals fit in all of this, and how to find what you are meant to do, is the never-ending struggle, if you will. But I mean, I think that it seems like you've been doing well, figuring that out. And
well, I kind of look at it the way, and I don't have an official LLC, and I don't have like an official like consulting business, but I'm going to move into that. I want to make it official. You know what I mean? Right now, when it comes to my work, it's kind of like me living with a girlfriend. But we're together, we're committed, but I have a back door. You know what I mean? Right? But so I want to take it a step further and like put it on paper as a business.
Right.
And like the way I'm kind of looking at it is like, it's like a micro, it's going to be like a micro, like, how tech companies, they'll operate at a loss for like a decade.
Yeah.
And then sell to like one of the FANGs, Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, Google, right?
Right.
Like that type of model. Mine was like a micro version of that, where I want to put it on paper. I don't have enough average downloads to monetize it right now, but I don't even necessarily think that's the goal. Like the goal is to build wealth, but it's like a wealth of information, a wealth of access to a community of people who are looking to grow, learn, and improve.
Yeah.
So that's the goal of like what I try to do between podcasting, writing, and comedy. It's this idea of like, here's what I made. You might or might not like it, but I'm going to take that feedback and build upon it.
Yeah.
And like, I guess I'm willing to put an LLC around that, and then take a loss for 10 years and say, well, we haven't been profitable, but look how much we've learned, and look, and maybe opportunities would spring out because of that.
Yeah. I think to me, that's the best way to do it. It sucks because you got to go through that decade of struggling, and I'm in it. I'm still in it right now. Things are, growing, getting better, but by no means are they, where I want them to be.
Of course.
So
will they ever though? Will they ever be there?
Yes and no. Yes, in that I just want to get to a point where I can, afford to have my kid, and living in a good school system, and go on vacations when we want to, and hey, let's let's buy that car with a check because we can, like that kind of stuff.
You want options, flexibility, freedom.
Exactly. Because when you don't have that flexibility, that's when you get kind of, you feel when people talk about, the system or whatever, or the man, like, you feel that when you don't have that freedom. And those are things that I just don't want to have as being a thing. When we talk about building, on the skeletons of what was laid out before us, I don't know if I talked a little bit about like my grandfather and how we came up in that last podcast, how like he was an entrepreneur and he kind of laid the foundation for, my parents, and then also, me, and about how to make things happen on not just your own, but make things happen for those that are connected to you as well. One of the things that I still think is one of the coolest things, one of the most gangster things that I have ever seen was my grandfather wanted to buy this house back when he was younger. And, he was doing his thing as an entrepreneur, and the bank told him, this is like in the 40s or 50s, early 50s, I believe. They told him like, hey, we like you, but we can't give you a loan for this house in that neighborhood because, they're just not going to like you living there. So we can't give you this loan.
Yeah.
And while that could have been the, that's it conversation, he wasn't satisfied with that. So what he did was he bought that house anyway, and he had it moved from where it was to a neighborhood that he was happy with, actually his property, where he ended up building other buildings and houses and things.
Wow.
But
that's such a powerful story.
It's still like, I can't wait to tell that to my son. Like, you know what I mean? Like you find a way, when there's really no way at all. And that's kind of what we're all out here trying to do. But it's something that for me, being able to have that leeway, have the means necessary to do that. Is kind of, as it seems harder and harder to do that, as time goes, still searching for that ability to be able to do it and not just, show people, but inspire others to go for the same.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's a powerful story, and that will get you out of bed in the morning.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, I'm going to make this happen because I have to.
Yeah.
No more sleeping in on Saturdays. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I just, it can't, not for me. Especially, as once you get married, it's like, okay, what are we going to do, or where are we going to take this? Yeah.
Because it's a team.
Yeah.
And like my wife and I, we always look at each other, and it's like, look, the scoreboard isn't you versus me. If someone takes an L, we took an L. You know what I mean? Like if someone's losing points, we lost points.
Yeah.
So like if we're in an argument or whatever and we start beating one person down, that doesn't mean you won.
Exactly.
It means you lost. And vice versa.
Yeah.
So it's like for me, and I've kind of found myself using my wife as an excuse to not do things. Right. Yeah. Like, oh, I can't, start this side thing because, I don't know what she's going to think, or, I won't be able to spend more time with her. That's one way to look at it.
Yeah.
But then you can also look at it as like I had just had a conversation with her before I got here, bringing her in and incorporating her into the side project.
Yeah. And that's all I ever have been trying to do. I guess not all I've ever tried to do, but what we're currently working on is, part of what she does is I'm a photographer. I do a lot of beauty photography. She one of the things she does, she's a makeup artist. We actually, remember we went to New York. She took this course on like airbrush makeup and like all this stuff. Like she is legit. She's very good at what she does. And I love getting to work with her. That's one of a few things that we've talked about working on together. But, we went to Costa Rica, a couple years ago on a shoot, which was amazing. It was full, swimsuit line. She had this top tier model come in, and my wife's doing the makeup. I'm preparing the shoot. Like, it was fun. It was, and I told her at that point, like, not just this, but other avenues. Like, it would be amazing to build this life where we get to work together all the time,
and you get to choose what projects are gonna like not only strengthen you as individuals, but strengthen you as a couple, and as a family. Man, that's my goal. But it's so hard, especially when you're looking at like subjective things like art. Right? It's so hard. It's so hard to monetize.
It is.
Because one person can look at your pictures and be like, wow, this is amazing. And then another person can be like, wow, I don't like this at all. And they're both right.
Yeah. And that's the struggle. I always tell people that coming from the engineering world, engineers are inherent. I don't want to say we're inherently jerks, but we, in general, get kind of proud of the fact that, I went to engineering school or whatever. And I kind of tell people all the time, like, yeah, engineering is hard, but once you graduate, being an engineer is not hard. Like, you do what you went to school for, and that's it. Now, on the flip side of that, being an artist is not hard. Anybody can grab, pen, paper, and draw something, or paint, or grab a camera and take a photo. But to really be an outstanding photographer, outstanding, world-class painter, one of the hardest things you'll ever do.
Yeah, it's crazy, man.
Yeah.
It's so crazy.
So I don't know. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
But at the same time, it's almost as if when you look at the people that can monetize it, the multiple on it is crazy.
Yeah.
It's like a 10x, 20x, 30x.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's so strange when you think about all the SoundCloud rappers that hours and hours and hours of work, right?
Yeah.
And like no money at all. But then at the other end of the spectrum, you have a Kanye West or you have a Jay-Z.
Mm-hmm.
And it's astronomical, the amount of wealth generated at it.
Yeah.
I think that's called like the
like Pareto's law or something.
Thank you. That's exactly what it is. Pareto's law.
Yeah.
It's just that it's like there's like size, whether it's wealth, whether it's physical size of like the stars. It's concentrated very heavily on one end of the spectrum versus the other.
Yeah.
And it's just so interesting that you're not gonna be. Oh, maybe you can. Maybe moving forward, but it's like you're not gonna be a SoundCloud rapper who lives in the suburbs, right? Like in the sense of like that pays your mortgage, but you only make $50,000 a year, right? Like if your art is paying your mortgage, you're making over six figures, probably.
Yeah.
Right?
There's a middle. My wife and I always talk about like leapfrogging the middle, because it's like in the early stages, there's like no money and things suck and all of that.
Yeah.
You get stuck in the middle and you're making a little bit of money, but not enough to pay, like you said, your mortgage or any of that stuff. And there's really it's almost worse than where you were in the beginning, And then there's like that whole payout where it's like, things are really, really going, and you have to go through a middle phase. But I'm saying like, monetarily speaking or recognition speaking, there's like never, that's why people always say that, oh, they were an overnight success because they went from like obscurity to all of a sudden like things just completely blow up. That middle phase, if there is one, is very, very short, for those that do transition. But there was,
go ahead.
There was a book. Let me find. I'm currently listening to an audiobook that talks about, it's called High Performance Habits from Brendan Burchard.
I'm writing this down.
So one of the things that one of the habits is energy, like bringing energy to generating energy in your not just daily life, but what you do. But in this book, it does like a deep dive into that, just because it sounds like, oh, just bring the noise or whatever. But it's, bringing a liveliness to not just what you do, but all the things that are connected to what you do. For example, he kind of talks about how he went to school for like leadership, and how, he worked at this firm, helping organizations, create and find and cultivate better leaders. And how when he left, he was going into like, consulting on his own. And in order for him to be, to separate himself, he's like, well, I have to, to stand out in the leapfrog that middle to start making more money. He had to find the traits and the things that made him, better, if you will. What are the top guys? Well, the top guys are incredible, not just communicators, they're great public speakers, and they're amazing at marketing. So he decided, you know what, I'm going to take on marketing as my thing. And spend some time in there. He goes, I have no idea what I'm doing. I have no experience in marketing. I just know leadership. But he doubled down on becoming a better marketer, because it was connected to his dream of being, leadership based. And that helped bring him to the forefront and how things started to roll for him. So it's more so in becoming, also one of the habits is clarity, like gaining clarity with things. So in learning how to clarify your life, what are the things when you envision yourself in 5 years, 10 years, that person that you are in 10 years, as you see and feel that experience, what are the traits, what are the things that you possess as a person, skill sets that you don't have right now, and consciously work on those every day.
And that's your job.
Yeah.
And that's your passion. I think it was like 4 years ago when I was graduating from YSU, I thought of the idea of like, if you don't know what your passion is, then your passion becomes finding your passion.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I love that example, and I love leadership, and I love marketing. I'm a marketer. And the way I see it is, when people look at marketing and they look at like advertising and the bad end of it, they view it as kind of like propaganda.
Right.
It's delivering a message. Whereas to me, I see that as 50% of marketing. The other 50% is receiving the feedback and then taking that and looking at it and saying, well, is this true? Is it not true? And that's what real marketing is being true. Because we need to take the feedback and say, are they right?
Right.
And if they're right, what can we do to change it? What do we have control over to make it better?
Right.
And then to make the messaging that we are putting out more accurate.
Exactly.
And that takes leadership.
It does. It takes a lot of courage as well, because not a lot of people want to do the hard work necessary to find those answers out either. They just, go into this bubble and say, all right, I've got this idea and it's going to be great. And then they put it out there. And, that's why I think a lot of these companies will put out commercials or whatever, and then they end up walking them back with apologies and all that stuff, because it's like, did you really, ask the people that you were putting this out to whether or not this was something that could potentially be, misinterpreted, or, how would people in this position perceive this, as opposed to just being from that perspective of, I'm creating this and this is going to be great. So yeah, no, there's a lot of work involved in that.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of humbleness. It's a lot of paying attention.
Yeah.
It's a lot of scraping your knee. And it makes me think of Jonathan Pogot, who I've had on the podcast before. He used to be around MVP. I think if you saw his face, you would recognize him. But he's actually working out of a artificial intelligence SaaS company here in Akron.
Oh, wow.
And I think he's the chief marketing officer there. And he was saying that best is not better, because we were talking about like commercials and how like you'll see like a car dealer. We were ranked the best &1 in tire service in all of Northeast Ohio, or whatnot. And he was saying that best is not better.
No.
It's hard. It's like when someone comes to you and says, why should I pay you money? Well, because we're the best. It's like, that's not good enough.
And best according to who?
Exactly.
Right? I'm referencing my wife a lot, but we were watching what is this called? Instant Hotel on Netflix. It's like a reality show where these people have Airbnbs. Basically, it's all like they're in Australia, but it's still kind of fun to watch. So they all have Airbnbs in Australia, and then they each Airbnb owner stays at the other person's Airbnb, and then there's like, rating, they score it, and they've got like some world-renowned hotel designer like kind of judging as well. And one of the contestants, they're like all proud and thinking that they have the best one because they're #1 rated on TripAdvisor, and they've got all these high star ratings, and people go in to this Airbnb and they're like, what is this? Like, this is not the high end experience that they were expecting, and it's kind of dirty, and it's kind of, and we had that conversation about, well, yeah, they're for what they were charging and what you get, and the fact that it's on TripAdvisor, no knock to TripAdvisor, but people who aren't, spending $1,200 a night at, the Hyatt or whatever, they're not looking on TripAdvisor to book, a $300 a night, house, if you will. They're not, that's just not their market. So the people who are in that space that are spending, $300 for 9 people, and it's a family house. Yeah, they're going to think that this is amazing for what you get. But, so again, 5 stars for that group, but overall, where do you sit on this? And that's kind of, I guess, speaking to your point, I guess, is that better isn't always best.
Yeah. And the idea of like everyone is a prospect, that's also not good. That's laziness. The idea of, we sell to everyone, anyone. And it's like, if you're marketing to everyone, then you're marketing to no one. And I stole that. I think I stole that from Seth Godin. But it's like, you can't possibly, in a world of finite resources and finite attention, market to everyone. You can't make everyone happy. No. So how about finding who your product or service benefits the most and doubling down on them? Now, obviously, it's got to be viable, right? It's got to be a large enough population that could sustain your work.
Right.
But that's what the internet gives us. It gives us access to much more people, which kind of broadens our ability to be very niche.
Yeah.
So you can kind of be the local deli at scale.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah, you're the local deli for people who like what you do specifically worldwide.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I always talk about this before, and I don't want to make it political, but I look at the 2016 election, and I feel like the Clinton campaign was too broad. And it's like, well, we don't know what you stand for. Whereas the Trump administration was very, very clear. And they ostracized people.
Yeah.
But they knew who they wanted. And those people were able to say, well, this is what this person is about. and this is what I can, sink my teeth into.
Right.
Whereas, and I don't recommend going, the Trump administration route when it comes to like campaigning and whatnot. But the idea is, this is for this people and this is not for these people.
Mm-hmm.
That is very powerful, because what happens is, well, then now you're on the interstate and you can hit cruise control and you can just focus on driving rather than focusing on what's the right street to get off of.
Right.
And pumping your brakes.
That's really powerful. Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, best is not better and everyone is not better, because it's kind of like a drink, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if we were taking a shot at Jameson, we're taking a shot. It's very concentrated. But then if we were to take that shot at Jameson and pour it into like a half gallon of water, it's not going to have the same effect. It's literally watered down.
Yeah.
So it's like, don't water down your messaging.
Not for everybody, no, because then who are you really reaching, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, I guess same for me in building this media, I don't want to call it empire, but whatever, it is that we're doing down in Columbus, it's figuring out who exactly, understands, the visual messaging, the visual aesthetics, especially for me, when it comes to photography and my style or whatever, people either like it or they don't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And if you do, then we can talk. If
For
not,
sure.
no hard feelings. But
that's comedy. That is stand-up comedy.
Yeah.
Right. But what I like about comedy is the feedback is so raw and authentic in real time. Because you can't go up with a bit and then get off stage and say, oh, that was funny, when no one laughed.
But then again, to go to the point of how many different skill sets do you have to develop in order to be a great, stand-up comedian?
Oh, man. So much.
So it touches so many different things. It's not just, I'm going to do this and it's going to be great. Like, you have to understand, how to read an audience, how to, sometimes diffuse situations.
Yeah.
Like it can be
customer service.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But it's like, I look at that as emotional labor. So it's like, it's weird because it's an investment. You're investing time, energy, but capital, what is it? Gas money, right? And then outside of that capital, what else are you investing? You're investing your emotions. And that's the way I look at it, right? I'm putting the emotions on the line. And if those emotions get beat up, which they do, it at least isn't taking food out of my refrigerator yet. Right? Right. But like if you want to start like a nuts and bolts company, right? And so you need startup capital to purchase whatever you need to purchase. And then that stuff is sitting on the shelf and you're paying for the square footage for it to sit there. And every day it sits there and it's not being, taken off the shelf, you're losing more money on the investment.
Yeah. Yeah. That's rough. And I don't know. I mean, continue your thought. I wasn't trying to interrupt.
I don't even know where I was going to go with that. It was just me splurging, I guess.
No. All I was going to say was, I feel like where we are in, I guess, taking that part of the conversation and saying, I feel like where we are in, I don't know, this country or even Ohio, just, it seems like things are changing so much that, having understanding and recognizing those skill sets and how to utilize them in a way that works for you, understanding and learning that you need to develop things outside of the classroom or outside of the traditional learning environment. And then taking that and building what you want to build is important, more so now than ever. I was randomly thinking the other day, like, the whole people talk about taxes, and I was in a conversation about taxes and why, you know, Google doesn't have to pay any taxes and all this other stuff. And it occurred to me that, well, no, they don't, you know, and not that it's cool or whatever, but the way this country is set up currently, if you either create taxpayers or B, teach taxpayers, you don't have to pay taxes. That's how it is, right?
That's so interesting.
You're a big company, you're Google, you're whatever, you employ tens of thousands of taxpayers. You're good. You're making them pay.
And that's a contribution.
Yeah.
A huge contribution.
Yeah.
Because they're taking on the risk.
Yeah.
Because at any moment, those tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands in certain situations, they could roll out of bed one day and say, hey, we're not working for you anymore.
Exactly. Now, I mean, this is like not good, bad, or indifferent. It was just a little thought.
I feel like taxes is like it's a trigger word.
I feel like it is, but here's the other side of it, right? Again, in Columbus, you got Ohio State, like you've got hundreds of colleges every year that pump out tens of or hundreds of thousands of new taxpayers every year.
That's crazy. That's a lot of revenue generated.
And they themselves are nonprofit organizations, so they don't pay any taxes.
Yes.
You've got Ohio State, football, who they bring in tons of money, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, again, good, bad, or indifferent, it's whatever. I'm not here judging, but
you're just laying out how it is.
Yeah. Like that's how it is. Like, yeah, they're not paying taxes because every year they're pumping out hundreds of taxpayers, thousands of taxpayers.
Yeah, that's a very interesting way to look at it. And I think this is something that I wanted to talk to you about. I have a friend who's a mechanical engineer.
Yeah.
And he said that he's learned more about his expertise on YouTube than he had in the classroom at university.
Oh, yeah. Sophomore year, I was sick. I had a lot of health issues or whatever, but I was sick and I was determined to make it through Calculus 2, which was the hardest of the 3 calculus classes. And I was missing a lot of class time, but I would just like email the professor. I had the syllabus or whatever, syllabi, and I would go through it and then go to YouTube and I'd learn it. And then I'd show up for the test and I'd get like a B or an A.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, so
that's crazy. That's awesome.
And I mean, it's so I believe it, I guess is what I say. And even like there were some like thermodynamics classes and whatnot, like from I believe Harvard or MIT or whatever that are currently like on YouTube right now. I would watch those, as a supplement to the class. And by the time I got there, I'm like, oh yeah, I got this. I'm pretty well grounded in the fundamentals.
Wow.
So yeah, I mean, I believe it for sure.
What do you think about the university? Like moving forward.
I was borderline dreading this question, not really dreading it, but like I've got a lot of thoughts about it. I feel like unless you are going to be a doctor, lawyer, I mean, yeah, a professional engineer, I guess, I mean, yeah, just engineer in general, because it is kind of important that you do understand the principles. But unless you're in those tracks, I don't know, man. It's really not, they teach you, I think universities by and large teach you a lot of great things like, structure and, yeah, you get homework and, in real life you have deadlines. Like they kind of, for people who are completely undisciplined, I feel like it could be good for them.
Yeah.
But, universities for the most part teach you how to be a good employee. And that's about it.
Now we're getting to the nitty gritty. I mean, but you're right.
I mean, yeah, that's
because they had Henry Ford in mind when they were developing the universities, right? Like this idea of you will go to this place where you'll plug A into B, whether A to B is like a bolt onto some type of screw or like a file into a filing cabinet, right? Like that was the idea of compliance, because Henry Ford doesn't want you to make up some extra letter in the alphabet.
Yeah.
He just needs you to plug A into B.
Yeah.
And that worked for them. And if you didn't want to be on the farm, or if you didn't want to be flipping burgers, the way that you could charge more for your time being rented was a degree to show that, you had went to university or whatever.
Right.
And I feel like I'm seeing a lot of that now. It's like I've been out of school for 3 or 4 years now, and it seems like people my age, they don't know what the next step is, so they want to go get their MBA. And it's like, I get it, because right now, and I'm doing the same thing. I'm renting my time. I'm renting my time to someone else.
Right.
And the issue with renting your time is that whoever you're renting it to has an incentive to give you the least amount as possible.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
But that's just how it is. I mean, because they're taking the risk, right?
Right. Well, again, it goes back to like that whole conversation about, not that, again, being an engineer, is hard, but once you get out, going to college is difficult. Yeah, that's kind of the point. But once you get out, now what? Unless you are, building and learning and doing things outside of that, you're kind of in that artist space where becoming outstanding at what you do to get compensated well enough where college loans aren't an issue is a lot of work. It's a lot of outside education that most people aren't necessarily willing to do. It's
a lot of work and a lot of uncertainty.
Yeah.
That sums up the artist right there.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like we're all seeking grade 17, right? Because you go grades up to 12th grade, and then what's the next step? Oh, I go to college. You're a freshman, a sophomore, junior. But then when you graduate, 16 years of compliance training, and then you're like, what's next? What's next on the syllabi? And what happens when you don't have a syllabi?
Exactly.
You become an artist. You either become an artist or you become a cog.
Pretty much. I mean, yeah. I mean, I would venture to say that there's artists of life out here, trying to figure out how to make a masterpiece out of what, situation they're in.
Yes.
And that takes a lot of effort, a lot of effort. But, I have a friend who, I've known her for a while. She has a daughter that, now this is like years ago. She was telling me that her daughter just graduated high school, and at that point in time, she owns a hair salon, and incredibly successful. Like, I'd venture to guess that salon, if I had to guess, $1 million or $2 million a year, easy. It's well respected salon in the industry. And she had a daughter, and she told me like, hey, I don't think that she has to go to college. And she was like, so basically what I told her was, we make too much for you to get like student loans. So that's not like even on the table.
Yeah.
This is going to be, the money that I would spend for that college education. She goes, if you want to go to college, by all means, we can figure that out. And, it's fine. If you don't want to go to college, or if you want to do something else, or pay to go to a trade school or whatever have you, we can do that too. And, or, pay in part to link you up with mentors and people that are already doing what you want to do and can get you, into the circles that you need to be successful.
That's really interesting. Well, I mean, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, no.
But it's, you're looking at it as an investment, and it's like looking at the university. we're in a situation where the yield on the investment is not higher than what you're paying for the loan.
Right.
Right. And so she's looking at it as, where are we going to use these resources to maximize the return on the investment?
Exactly.
And I really like that idea of paying mentors.
Yeah.
Of it that is very specific into the niche that is what their daughter's interested in.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me think of I was listening to Naval Ravikant, who's an angel investor, and he was talking about the story of when there's the author of The Intelligent Investor. It's a book that Warren Buffett says was the biggest influence on his life. Well, when Warren had graduated college, he went to that author and he said, "Hey, I will work for you for free just to learn from you." And the author told him, "That's underpriced." he's like, from what you're going to learn from me, doing it for free, you should be paying me. Yeah. Right? Because think about all the risk and all the failures and all the learnings that person developed. Yeah, let's pay at people who have actually executed.
Yeah.
And let's get that knowledge, not the professor.
it's invaluable. I mean, as we just spoke about, me being in Columbus, one of the greatest benefits I feel like that I'm getting is not just, building my own company, but I also work as an assistant to a photographer. I'm a retoucher. That's one of the things I do. I, edit photos, and I do a pretty good job of it. I'd like to say I'm pretty legit at it. I've spent a lot of time doing it. So I edit his photos. Sometimes I go on event shoots for him. And I'm learning in part how he gets some of the clients that he gets. The guy that I work for, I mean, he's got an amazing downtown studio, and he's incredibly well connected. Like, he's got major accounts. I will say that, like, some of the biggest in the state. Like, he's huge accounts. And I'm like, wow, like how did this happen? And seeing it, on a day in, day out basis is really amazing. Like, I don't know if he understands that, yes, while I'm working and, nobody ever really wants to be an assistant as like the end game, but I do it because, one, I'm learning from him, not just my own retouching process, but some nuances, things that I may or may not have learned. He shoots different than I do. Yeah. So some of how he goes about his shooting process, I've kind of absorbed into mine, as a learning experience. But one of the most invaluable things is, yes, how to build the structure, the framework, and the network necessary to actually seriously succeed in not just the creative space, but in other avenues and fields as well. He does a very good job of that. And I've kind of started, I guess you could say, imitating that,
for sure,
in my own, endeavors. So
why wouldn't you? I mean, life is too short to figure out everything on your own.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a perfect, I guess, reason why mentors are, I feel like, not the new college, but it's essentially that 17th grade, if you will. It's that next step.
Yeah. And now that I think about it, it's so easy to pay those people. You could pay them with your time, right? Mm-hmm. And it's like, hey, let me be an extension of you so you can scale your own efforts. That's appealing. But I mean, you could get to the point where the owner of the salon that you were talking about, she could just Venmo, someone that's ultra successful. Mm-hmm. Say, hey, what is your hourly rate? What would you charge me to sit down with my daughter for an hour once a week?
Yeah. And it's way better than getting caught up in a college scandal, right? Like paying.
Then, you're just paying, per lesson or whatever, and you're not paying interest on it.
Right. Well, I guess you remember the USC scandal where people were, these wealthy people are paying like $500,000 to get their kid into USC or whatever. And like, while that's cool, what is that going to get you when you get out? You still have to figure out the network. You still have to figure out how to make that go.
It's actually even worse, right? Because you had no skin in the game.
Yeah.
You know, that was just given to you.
Yeah.
So now, like, I have an incentive to figure it out because I'm in debt.
Mm-hmm.
You know, yeah. I mean, well, let's say I have loans to pay off, and until I pay those off, I'm not free.
Right. Yeah. And yeah, it's not a feeling that is inspiring or great, and you feel it's almost like you feel, I'm going to say trapped, but excuse me, it discourages you from going after what you want because now you know, well, I've got these loans that are kind of over my head. I can't give this up because, you know, you're playing this house of cards game where you've got, you know, rent or mortgage and car payments and all this stuff going.
I like that. House of cards. You're right.
That's what it is.
You're right.
And everybody's trying to make sure that their, you know, cards doesn't
tumble over.
Yeah.
That's, yeah. The way I like it, you said you feel trapped. I feel claustrophobic.
Yeah.
Meaning, like, I think we're seeking the same thing. Like, when I think of freedom, it's, I don't mean this idea of working 3 hours a day and then like going on a boat whenever I want to or whatever. What I want is I want the freedom to contribute in the best way that I feel I can.
Yeah.
And as of right now, I mean, you always have to make compromises, but I feel like I have to make more compromises because I have obligations.
Yeah.
And I want that to be reversed.
Yeah.
I want to have less obligations so that way I can make less compromises.
Exactly.
And obviously that puts me at risk because I have to be accountable when I don't make that compromise, and I take accountability for that decision.
Right, right.
But that's what I want, because to me that's what freedom is.
Yeah. It's, I guess people don't really understand, in my opinion, people don't really understand what freedom really is until they see it, until they feel it.
Yeah.
You know, and that's a really, I won't say discouraging thing, but it's unfortunate that this is kind of how society is set up. You know, I've talked to you about like my brother from time to time and how, you know, he's afforded, you know, opportunities for me and other family members to really see and experience and do things, you know, in this world that, you know, would have never come about otherwise. And in seeing those things, you understand what's possible, and it kind of flips like, wait, you know, there's people out here that do this on a daily basis, and, you know, that just living, breathing, walking, this stuff exists, you know, and it's exciting and discerning at the same time, because you're like, well, why don't most people know that this is out there for them?
But even more than that, it's you. You know, you can look at your brother and you know your brother, and that's a part of you. It's like this, like when I look at certain people, I look at like a Jeff Bezos or a Mark Zuckerberg. I don't even see myself as the same creature, right? Like I can't see myself doing what they do because they're at such another level. But when you look at your brother and you realize that he's executing on a level that 99.999% people don't operate at, it's still your brother. And you recognize that, you know, that is possible for you as well.
Well, yeah. But again, it kind of goes back to that whole, if you want to see yourself as a Jeff Bezos or whatever, study, break down. And part of, you know, maybe it's reading or listening to autobiographies and understanding who they are as people, and really gathering notes on
the skills.
Yeah, the skills, how they operate as people,
and then manifest it.
Yeah.
I mean, what's the alternative? What else are you going to do?
Yeah, I mean,
are you just going to sit around, twiddle your thumbs, and then become Mark Zuckerberg one day? It just doesn't work like that.
No, it doesn't.
And I don't think I would want it to work like that. right? Like if I was the CEO of a publicly traded company that had tens of thousands of employees, like tomorrow, I would feel like such a fraud, right?
Yeah. I think, that's that. There's that side of it. Yeah. I think that's what separates a lot of people when people get starstruck or whatever. And it's okay. Like people, you meet, somebody that you get inspired by, like you're going to have a freak out moment. But at the same time, like I've met celebrities before, and it's like on some level, I feel like we're not different. Like you made that happen for you, and I'm not jealous or whatever. I'm happy for you, but I am not. Like the only difference here is that you've
time.
Yeah, basically, that's it. And I feel like a lot of people get like stuck in the whole, oh, that's so and so, and they have, I'll never be able to. No, you can. You just have to work on it every day, and then you will feel, that way yourself. So
that's powerful, man. That really is. And where do we take it from here? You've been doing on this journey longer than I have. I tell people when it comes to like comedy, I feel like quitting every day. I feel like stopping every day. When it comes to marketing, I haven't started my business yet, right?
Yeah.
And it's just like we had this discussion when I was a senior in college, like 3 or 4 years ago, about potentially starting my own company.
Yeah.
And it just never has happened. So it's like, what is this journey that you've been on? Any words of wisdom for us young artists?
Yeah. So I was listening to a song. I'm answering the question, but I was listening to a song by. So, are we okay?
This computer has been scheduled to shut down automatically. Oh, in 9 minutes. Yeah, I think we have a couple more minutes.
Okay,
go ahead. Yeah.
All right. So, was riding around, and DJ Mustard has a new album out, right? And I was like, all right, I'm gonna listen to this, see what this is about. The last track on his song is called Perfect 10. It is a song featuring Nipsey Hussle, who has been. I was so heartbroken when he was killed, because he was one of my favorites, because he spoke everything that I felt like to my core. And in this track, and like I said, this track came out yesterday, and he was saying, Nipsey's just at the end of the track, he's just talking, and he's saying, the only difference between me and you is that I didn't quit. That's it. He goes, I've had days where he goes, this stuff is hard. It's not easy at all. He goes, but you just have to grind through it and push through. You take a L, you figure out why you took a L, and, you just keep going. That's the only difference, really. I mean, that's what I would say.
Wow. Dude, I'm going to listen to DJ Mustard. I'm going to listen to, I got to, man, Nipsey, the legend. Well, thank you for this. I think I didn't bring a jump drive, so I'm going to have to upload this to Google Drive.
Okay.
And I think that's going to take a couple minutes, and this computer's going to shut down.
Okay.
But we're going to have to do this again. I know we have some other stuff to check out here in the library offline. Yeah. But where can people find you, man? This is great. Do you want people to find you?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So right now, I guess I've been hanging mostly on Instagram. At Brian Alls. That's BrianAlls. I guess I'm on Facebook. Not as much as I used to be, but I'm trying to make a comeback on that. Twitter at Brian Alls. Everything that you can find me is just Brian Alls. BrianAlls. So, yeah.
Brian, thank you so much, man. Hopefully we can do this again, and hopefully it doesn't take 2 marriages and 2 years later.
Right.
We'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, definitely.